When I was 12 years old, I still slept on a thin straw mat beneath a fragile roof made of palm leaves. Every morning, I woke up to the scent of smoke. Mama was already stirring a pot of porridge over the fire. We lived in a small village in southern Benin, where there was no running water, no electricity, no connection to the outside world. But we had Mama, and the smell of charcoal and clay on her hands was my whole world. I'll never forget the day a tall, light-skinned man came to our village. His name was Michael. He arrived with a humanitarian group. They were giving out vaccinations and bags of rice. My mama translated for him, and I noticed right away how he looked at her, not like others did. In the weeks that followed, he returned again and again. He brought soap, books, and even once, a light blue dress for me. It was simple, but I felt like a princess. They fell in love. At first, it felt strange. People in the village whispered, some gave us sideways glances, but Mama began to smile again. I hadn't seen that smile in years. A few months later, they got married. And one day, Mama told me my daughter were flying to America. America. The word itself sounded like a fairy tale. We landed in Charlotte, North Carolina. I remember the airport doors sliding open and being hit by a wave of cold, not the temperature, but that artificial, conditioned air filled with the smell of coffee. Mama held my hand tightly, and even though I was trembling with fear, I felt something stir inside me, like something big was about to begin. I started school. It was hard. I didn't speak English. Everything was unfamiliar: food, smells, clothes, faces. The kids stared at me like I was some strange creature. Some laughed. But a few helped me, especially Miss Jane, my ESL teacher. She taught me to read and write. She even brought me chocolate on the holidays. I slowly adjusted, bit by bit. I was a fast learner. Within a few years, I was speaking fluently and soon after, writing short stories in English. Cooking became my refuge. It started when I tried to recreate the dishes Mama made back in the village. I searched for familiar spices, made flatbreads out of flour and water, just like we used to on open coals. Eventually, I began to experiment, mixing African spices into American meals. After high school, I enrolled in culinary college. There, I realized that cooking wasn't just a profession, it was an art of caring. A language of love. My way of saying to the world, I see you. I hear you. I want to make you feel better. I worked in kitchens everywhere, diners, fast food joints, little cozy restaurants. I worked nights and weekends. Washed dishes, scrubbed floors, took out trash. But I paid attention to every head chef I worked under. I wrote down recipes, absorbed their secrets, watched how they chopped onions or perfected their bechamel sauce. And then, one day, I got a call. There's an opening at Maison Lumiere, said the voice on the phone. One of the city's most prestigious restaurants. French cuisine, white tablecloths, a month-long reservation waitlist. I passed the interview. My French accent, my background, my flavors, everything felt new and vibrant to them. A week later, I started my first shift. I stood in the kitchen, my chef's coat crisp and clean, facing plates of wine-glazed salmon and lamb racks with pomegranate reduction. And in that moment, I remembered my village. I remembered how once we celebrated just one bowl of rice. Because now I knew my present was here. But my childhood had never left me. Every morning, I arrived at the restaurant before anyone else. While the place was still quiet and the first light of day crept in through the kitchen windows, I'd start boiling water, checking inventory, and make myself a ginger tea. Then I'd sit by the window, sipping slowly, remembering. The hunger of my childhood was not just in the belly, it was in the eyes, in the way we spoke, in the silence between words. In our village, children often went to bed with nothing in their stomachs. One meal a day was a blessing. Some days, not even that. I remember Mama, hungry herself, handing me her portion of food with a quiet smile. Back then, I didn't understand what kind of sacrifice that truly was. I remember how we'd gather dried fruits or old roots, whatever we could find. I remember the day a truck came with humanitarian aid, sacks of rice and a few bottles of cooking oil. That day felt like Christmas. I can still taste it, hot rice with salt and a few drops of oil. That simple meal felt like a royal feast. And now I was garnishing foie gras with microgreens and finishing plates with truffle glaze. I loved my job. I loved the elegance, the artistry, the quiet pride in perfecting a dish. But deep inside, a part of me always returned to that smoky kitchen in our hut, to the clatter of tin bowls, to the wide, expectant eyes of the village children. And I carried a vision within me, quiet but burning. I wanted to go back to Africa, but not as a child, not as someone in need. I wanted to return with strength in my hands and resources at my back. I wanted to bring food, clean water, supplies, and care. I wanted to feed the children, even if just for a few days. I wanted to make them laugh, to play with them, to remind them that the world hadn't forgotten. Nobody at work knew about this dream. It was something I kept close to my heart, delicate and unspoken. But I nurtured it year after year, dollar after dollar, dish after dish. My vacation was coming up. 2 weeks. That's what I was entitled to. But this time, I wasn't thinking of beaches or city breaks. I'd been saving all year, budgeting, researching, making plans. I found a woman who used to work in humanitarian logistics and began corresponding with her for advice. I called my friend from culinary college, Lauren. Bright, bold, and full of heart. We hadn't worked together in years, but I trusted her. I told her everything, my plan, my dream, my fears. She listened quietly, then said, "I'm going with you." We began preparing. We bought sturdy backpacks, medical kits, tents. I got in touch with a local contact back in Benin, my uncle's childhood friend, who agreed to help us coordinate on the ground. We began mapping routes and menus: rice, lentils, vegetable stew, porridge with mango, fresh juice. Nothing fancy, but warm, nutritious, made with love. I felt something blooming inside me, a kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. I had everything I needed: work, stability, community. But more than that, I had a purpose. The same purpose that kept me staring at the stars through holes in our thatched roof as a child, whispering, "Someday, I'll help." Now, that someday had come. My vacation was just around the corner, and the closer it got, the more I realized 2 weeks wouldn't be enough. Not for everything we planned. Not for the travel, the setup, the cooking, the connection. Not for doing it right. I wasn't looking for a quick drop-off mission. I wanted presence. I wanted dignity. I wanted time. I sat in the staff locker room after a long shift, my hands still warm from the heat of the stove, rolling the thought over and over in my mind. How would I ask for more time? Would they question it? Should I lie? But something inside me knew I had to be honest. The next morning, after the kitchen meeting, I lingered. "Chef, do you have a moment?" I asked. He was a tall, silver-haired man with sharp eyes and a calm presence. He looked over his glasses and nodded. "Of course. What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "I'd like to request 1 more week of vacation, in addition to the 2 I already have. I just really need it. For personal reasons." He raised an eyebrow. "Something serious?" And so I told him. Everything. About the village I came from. About Mama. About the hunger and the silence. About the dream I had carried like a stone in my pocket for years. About Lauren, our plans, the gear, the food, the reason. I didn't dramatize it. I just spoke from the heart. He didn't say a word. Not at first. Then he slowly sat down and exhaled. "You really plan to do this?" he asked, finally. "You've already made arrangements?" I nodded, unsure of what he was thinking. He rubbed his face with both hands. "You know, I've worked in restaurants for 40 years. I've seen it all: screaming chefs, Michelin stars, broken wine glasses, broken marriages, career highs and crashes. But it's rare, so rare, to see someone chase good the way you are. Not for applause. Not for show. Just because." He stood, walked over to me, and placed a hand gently on my shoulder. "Take the 3rd week. No questions asked." And actually, he hesitated, like he was weighing something deeper. "I want to help." He opened the drawer behind his desk and pulled out his old checkbook. With a quick flick of the wrist, he scribbled out a generous sum and tore it free. Buy whatever you need: food, supplies, tools. If you need connections with distributors, let me know. I'll call a few. I was speechless. Tears welled up in my eyes before I could stop them. He patted my back awkwardly, but kindly. One condition, he said, smiling. When you get back, you bake us a pie. And you tell us everything. Every little detail. I laughed through the tears and nodded. That day, something shifted. We went from 2 to 4. Because I wasn't alone anymore. I told Paco and Jay, 2 of our kitchen staff, trusted, steady, kind. The chef had already spoken to them. They agreed to come. They didn't hesitate. And in that moment, I realized something that would stay with me forever. Goodness is contagious. You just have to light the first flame. And soon, you'll see others will come running with firewood. We had already started packing boxes. The restaurant had given us a small storage space in the back for temporary use. Lauren was in charge of medical kits, bandages, burn ointments, antiseptics. Paco ordered the spices. Jay managed flour and baking supplies. We even bought 2 large gas canisters and portable burners to cook on site. Everything was coming together, smoothly, almost too smoothly. It felt like the universe was quietly nudging us forward. That evening, as I was getting home after another run to the store, my phone rang. Hello? The voice on the other end was rough, firm, almost businesslike. Is this Miss Anna? Yes, this is she. My name is Harold. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Rivera, the owner of the Maison Lumiere Group, including the restaurant where you work. He's currently traveling, but we've discussed your project. My stomach dropped slightly. He knows? He does. And, to be honest, he's impressed. Deeply. He told me, and I quote, "She's doing what we all talk about, but never do." I didn't know what to say. A strange mix of joy and nervousness filled my chest. What would this mean? Harold continued, Mr. Rivera has a business partner. He owns a separate chain of restaurants, Valley Roots. When he heard about this trip, he said one thing: we're going with them. I'm sorry. What does that mean, we? It means that from his side, 7 more people will be joining your mission. Skilled chefs, assistants, a supply coordinator, even a nurse and a logistics lead. He's covering all the costs: flights, food, tents, medicine, vehicles. Everything. He told me he's tired of sipping wine from velvet chairs while children in the world go hungry. He said, I want to be part of something real. I closed my eyes. My heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear his words. We'll be sending you the participant list, passports, vaccination forms, and logistics sheets by tomorrow, Harold continued. Please let us know where to forward everything. I tried to respond, but my voice caught in my throat. Thank you. Thank you so much, I finally managed. Don't thank us, Harold said. Thank yourself. You lit the match. The rest of us just felt the warmth. The call ended. I stood in my small kitchen, holding the phone, unable to move. What had been a quiet dream in my chest had just become a mission. A real one. A large one. With reach and structure and momentum. 11 people. From different places, backgrounds, and lives, now united by one desire: to help feed the children of Africa. I looked at the photo on my wall. Mama and I, back in the village, barefoot, hair braided, laughing. And I whispered softly, Mama, I'm coming home. But this time, I'm not coming alone. As the plane began its descent, I leaned my forehead against the cool window. Below us stretched the land, dusty, sun-bleached, and alive. I recognized the reddish earth, the winding dirt roads, the scattered acacia trees standing tall and solitary like guardians of memory. We landed in Cotonou, Benin's capital. Waiting for us at the terminal were 2 rented minibuses and our local coordinator, Jean-Paul, an old friend of my uncle's. A kind man with a weathered face and a deep laugh, who somehow seemed to know everyone in the province. Once all 11 of us were together on the ground, chefs, helpers, a nurse, and my friends, we looked around at each other, a bit dazed, a bit amazed. We were standing under a hot yellow sky, surrounded by unfamiliar scents and sounds, yet somehow, it already felt like purpose. We piled into the vans and drove north, toward the region where I was born. The further we went, the rougher the roads became. Asphalt turned to gravel, gravel to dust. We passed colorful markets where women sold papayas and cassava on wooden tables. Children ran barefoot, chasing old bicycle tires with sticks. Goats wandered freely, as if the whole country belonged to them. And then, there it was, my village. I recognized it from far away. The same clay huts with thatched roofs. The same pile of stones near the old well. The same baobab tree in the center. Nothing had changed. Not really. Only I had. As our vans rolled slowly onto the main path, children began spilling out of the huts. Some stared from behind their mothers' skirts. Others walked up curiously, eyes wide. Big, unblinking eyes, some barefoot, some wearing clothes 3 sizes too big, handed down again and again. I stepped out of the van, took a breath, and it hit me. A wave of emotion I couldn't stop. In front of me were versions of myself 10 years ago. Hungry, curious, quiet, watching, but I didn't cry in front of them. I straightened my back, smiled, and walked toward a boy standing in the dust. "Hello," I said, kneeling down to his level. "My name is Anna. I used to live here once. And I've come back." Behind me, Lauren was unloading food crates. Jay opened the flour bins. Paco tied up tarps to provide shade. Our nurse began setting up a table with antiseptic and gauze. Jean-Paul was already speaking with the elders and organizing the flow of people. I moved gently between the children, washed their hands, braided a girl's hair, sat with them as they drew shapes in the dirt. I didn't feel like a visitor, I felt like someone returning to her people. That evening, after the meals had been served and the sun was sinking behind the trees, a small boy approached me and pressed something into my hand. It was a tiny angel, carved from wood. "This is you," he said softly. And I understood, this wasn't just a return. This was a gift. We woke up early the next morning. The sun hadn't yet risen fully, and the air still held a trace of coolness. In our makeshift kitchen, water was already boiling, and the smell of fresh flatbread filled the air. Jay had somehow managed to bake it in an old cast-iron pot over an open flame. Our camp buzzed like a hive. Everyone moved with quiet energy, chopping vegetables, preparing utensils, washing rice, hanging lanterns. The children had already gathered nearby. Some sat cross-legged in the dirt, watching us with wonder. Others offered to help. A few simply leaned against me, wordless but warm. Paco had set up our kitchen under a tarp, 2 gas burners, 3 giant pots, and a folding prep table. We cooked rice with tomato and beans, grilled plantains, and made sweet porridge. It wasn't gourmet, but it was hot, nourishing, and made with care. We organized the children into a line. Some held their own bowls, others received disposable plates we brought. No one pushed. No one begged. There was order, respect, even reverence. It felt more like a sacred ritual than a food line. While the children ate, Lauren played soccer with them. Our nurse checked small wounds, applied ointments, handed out vitamins. I moved among the crowd, touching shoulders, braiding hair, laughing at silly jokes. And through it all, I kept asking myself, how is this real? We packed up that evening and drove to the next village, where they were already waiting. The pattern repeated. We arrived, set up, cooked, served, played, cared, loved, packed, moved on. Every goodbye was hard. In one village, a boy named Tida clung to my hand and refused to let go. He gave me a bracelet, woven from a plastic bag and a bit of thread. "So you won't forget," he said, "that you are one of us." In another village, a girl named Sarah handed me a stone shaped like a heart. No words, just trust. Sometimes the adults brought us gifts too, eggs, mangoes, even handmade bread. We knew they were giving from what little they had. We always received their offerings with deep gratitude and quietly left sacks of flour or cooking oil in return. At night, we slept in tents. Sometimes under stars, sometimes under rain. Mosquitoes bit us, water supplies ran short. One van even broke down. But 3 local men fixed it within an hour and wouldn't take a cent. "You're helping our children," they said. "Let us help you." In 7 days, we visited 7 villages. We served over 1,000 meals, treated dozens of burns, infections, wounds, bandaged small knees and big hearts. But more than that, we gave something no money could buy. We gave presents. Joy. Human warmth. Every time we left a village, we were followed by singing, dancing, waving hands. Some cried. Some smiled. Some gave us gifts made from nothing but filled with everything. Each night around the fire, we sat together. We didn't speak much. We didn't need to. We were tired, yes. But it was the kind of tired that makes you feel more alive, not less. We didn't just come to feed others. We were being fed, too, by their hope, their resilience, their trust. By the simple, beautiful truth that kindness multiplies. When our plane landed in Charlotte, I was still holding the bracelet, woven from a plastic bag and a thread. It was simple, fragile even. But inside it lived a whole world. A world of tiny hands, hungry eyes, open hearts. A world that never truly let go of me. We walked through the airport in silence. Tired. Covered in dust and sun and miles of African roads. But something burned inside each of us, a quiet ember we all carried home. I returned to my apartment late that night. My kitchen, white, clean, organized with spice jars in a row, felt different now. I placed my backpack on the floor and stood still, listening to the silence. And then I cried. Not from sadness, but from release. Tears of something deep, letting go of the child I once was, of all the waiting, of the ache I had carried silently for so many years. I had done it. I had returned. And not empty-handed, but full of love. The kind I once longed for. The kind I now gave. The next day, I opened my email inbox. There were over 100 messages. Some from journalists. Some from volunteer groups. Others from strangers saying, "How can I join your next trip? Can I help financially? I want to come with you. Can I donate food?" One farmer in Iowa offered to ship dried beans. A food packaging company from Oregon offered free materials. A family from Texas offered a portable generator. I read each message with tears in my eyes. Because I knew now this wasn't the end of the story. This was just the beginning. That evening, Lauren called. "Anna, do you realize what you've done?" "No," I said, smiling softly. It wasn't just me. It was all of them. Everyone who believed. Back at the restaurant, Chef organized a small welcome gathering. There was a homemade pie waiting for us with the words, "Goodness comes back," written in icing. I told our story, every detail, just like I promised. Paco and Jay were already planning the next trip. Lauren had started a shared document with ideas. We wanted to go back. But this time, even bigger. With doctors, teachers, artists. With not just food, but stories, songs, supplies, and smiles. I was making lists again. Checking flight prices. Contacting local organizers. Because now I knew the truth. A childhood dream, even the quietest one, can become something powerful, something world-changing, if you carry it in your heart. And when I felt tired, I wore that little bracelet again. It was worn, a little faded, but it held strong. A reminder that somewhere under the African sky, children were waiting for a bowl of rice and the warmth of a gentle hand.